Yo, what's happening, YouTube family? I hope that everybody's doing well out there. Earlier today, I was on LinkedIn and I came across a post that I thought was very interesting by a guy that I've been following for a few months now. And in this post, this guy named Hang, he talks about one of the reasons that he almost quit being a designer last year. Today, I think he works as a product design recruiter. So I don't know at what capacity he works in design still, but I looked at his LinkedIn profile and he was a designer for many years, and it looks like he probably got frustrated and moved on into something else. But in this post, he talks about one of the reasons that he almost quit design, and the reason that I wanted to share it with you all is because I think over the last 2 or 3 years, what I found is that a lot of people got into design for the wrong reasons. People got into design because they thought it was attractive. They thought about it like almost, and I find that this is just culturally how a lot of folks are making decisions nowadays. It's almost like, us looking at an attractive person in the street and just wanting to get in a long-term relationship with that person based off of their physical attractiveness, and we're trying to make decisions on our careers with the same mindsets, right? We're making the same kind of career decisions, and it makes no sense to me. People are attracted to the salaries, the titles, the companies that you can work at. But if I were on a dating scene, I would not just hop into a relationship with a woman that I found was attractive. I would want to know, what is this person's mindset like? How do they view money? How do they look at life? How do they look at a family? Right? I'm older now. I'm settled down. Right? I would want to know these things. I have my wife, and I found the perfect partner to build a life with. But if I wasn't in that position, I would not just hop in a relationship with somebody who I thought was physically attractive. And I think that that's how a lot of people are choosing to be designers. They're choosing to be designers without understanding the ugly truths, right? If you were to marry somebody, wouldn't you want to know about their traumas and the bullshit that they went through in the past, so that if you want to be in that relationship or not? Wouldn't you want to know those things, right? So in this post, link Hang talks about one of the reasons that he almost quit, and I think it's very relatable to the sentiments of my mentors and my design peers that I've talked to over the years. They get frustrated with a lot of these things that Hang says, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through his post, and I'm going to share my commentary based on my own personal experiences and my opinions. So he says, one of the reasons I came close to quitting design last year was the surprising prevalence of inexperienced product managers with senior titles. These PMs tend to be subject matter experts on the product/industry, but lack sufficient transferable product skills. Most fell into PM work from adjacent roles in business development, marketing, project, or program management. Now, in my experience, I have seen that a lot of product managers um, don't have a ton of experience being product managers. They probably have done this for 4 or 5 years or so. But I think in general, across tech, people have, especially since the pandemic, people have wanted to transition into tech if they were working in other fields like health care, nursing, teaching, because of the things that they think are very attractive: the titles, the money, the companies, the respect, right? So if they were in various fields and they didn't have design skills or engineering skills, they might have looked at product management as a lane that they can get into because it deals with people and communication. So he says, as a result of this natural transition, they simply do not see the difference between product management versus industry knowledge. Their inability to deliver mission critical P0 product work can be shocking. A thin feature backlog can often masquerade as a product roadmap due to a lack of knowledge in the differences. Now, the way that I look at this statement, and in my experience, is that every role defines success very differently. If you're an engineer, how do you look at success? You probably think about, yo, I was able to code up that website or that app. If you're a designer, you think along the same lines. I was able to design that mobile app or that, that web application. But if you're a product manager, it's a little bit more abstract, because you weren't able to, use your hands to create the thing. If you're working in a company that has several product managers and you guys are working on different things, product managers think about, what was I able to ship in terms of a feature, and how much money did that feature make? Right. So this is getting into the mindset of how we look at success, in my opinion. And he says much of the work they assign to UX is targeting an MVP that isn't actually viable, but rather partially working. It does something or anything. This creates a half baked feature factory environment that negates the value and foresight of UX. The PM's goal is making something that sort of works quickly versus something that is engaging and useful. Now, I do not entirely agree with this statement, because I think it's all dependent. Like, he's just generalizing all PMs, but I think that it's all dependent on the culture of the organization that you're working within. There are places where, PMs are making subjective assumptions and they're shipping products, but I've also worked on teams where a PM is partnering with engineers and they're partnering with designers to understand the research that's been done, in a specific space. So they might have done some qualitative interviews with potential users who might use a product, or UX research is kind of guiding the team to make decisions that allow the PM to build out a strategy, right? So I don't think that every PM is like this, but I have seen that, it all depends on the culture of the company that you work at, where, you know they want to ship something rather than just doing the due diligence of research and testing and etc. He also says conflation also happens with product management versus people management, further exacerbated by having design report into product, as well as the widespread belief that a PM is a mini CEO. Instead of partnering with other functions, they see them as subordinates to carry out their instructions. Ooh, he's going in, right? In order to maintain this illusion of political power and influence, over level PMs closely guard key information and responsibilities. So he's talking about a lot of different things here. I'll first talk about, the product and people management thing. Now, I think that everybody has an ego, right? Especially product managers. Um, and I think that everybody looks at leadership very differently. For me, I look at leadership as creating other leaders, right? In order for me to create other leaders, I have to share the information that I understand and know, right? So that you get the information and you can make better decisions and be a better leader than I am, right? That's how I look at leadership. But you also have people who look at leadership as, me telling you what to do and you following my instructions. So it's a very hierarchical approach. I think that's how you say it. um, but I think that, as a product manager, I have seen, I've been through this myself, where a product manager is telling me how to design something, or they created mock-ups for me already, right? And it's like, yo, let me do my job. This is my expertise and you have expertise in something else. So how do I, work around that sort of um, issue? I talk to my product manager directly. This is how this is how I work with every product manager. Before we work together, I'm like, I've been in a role. I'm fully transparent, and I tell them, yo, I've been in roles where a PM is telling me what to do. That has never worked for me. So how I like to work is I like to partner with you, and I like to partner with engineering, because I feel like that's been the most effective way for me to produce the quality work that I want to produce, and it makes everybody's life easier. So I'm anytime I work with a product manager, I'm fully transparent about how I would like to work, and I also want to learn how they look at their jobs and how they look at success as well. Right, so that's what's worked for me. Um, and I, getting into the power and influence thing, uh, I have an executive coach, right? And my coach has taught me about, you know, the everybody wanting to play the game, right? But I think what he has also helped me see is that everybody has a different social currency that motivates them, right? For me, like I said, I get motivated by wanting to make a difference in people's lives, and you could look at this as what do they say, relationship, there's something I forgot what it's called, but everybody looks at life in general just very differently, and what motivates me might not motivate you. You might get motivated by making the most money. You might get motivated by um, working on the biggest project that gets the most visibility, right? But that doesn't necessarily motivate me in the same way. So you have to understand what motivates the people who are around you, and that's how you kind of influence them to think about things differently, or align on you guys coexisting together, right? So moving on, he says information asymmetry is wielded as a career advancement tool. They maintain full control over the customer slash user relationship and decides when user experience slash user research can speak to customers slash users. When access to customers is available, they tend to prioritize access for themselves instead of trained user researchers so that they can ask subjective product focused questions like what features do you need to purchase, or need to purchase our product, right? So I have seen this myself. But like I said earlier, I think it's all dependent on the culture of the organization that you work within. So any kind of interview that I've been on, I'm always curious to understand how they make decisions. How does this team make decisions? Right? I want to know that off top, because if it's a product manager who is making assumptions about what's going to work, I already know that's a red flag for me. That's a red flag for me, because then I can't tell a story with my design work. If you're just going to tell me what to do, and I'm not going to be able to do my due diligence to create a quality product, then that it already tells me how I'm going to feel on the job. That's not going to feel good. But when people don't understand how to answer that question, how do you make decisions? I already know. Okay, this ain't for me. When I go on interviews, right? Because you do have a lot of product managers who are making assumptions, and uh, sometimes they will be the liaison between customers or users or whoever buys the product, right? And they don't give that information to the product designers. So what that creates is an environment where you don't have the information that you need in order to create the kind of quality product that you want to create, right? So yeah, like I said, that's a red flag to me if they don't answer the question in a way that I like, where I'm trying to understand how they make decisions. And let's finish this out. He says access to executive stakeholders in regards to strategic and financial goals are also hoarded. By carefully withholding information, they become the inscrutable voice of the customer and CEO that others must heed. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is truly king. Finally, many of these PMs are unable to maintain basic measurable impact beyond work velocity and superficial sales targets. Thus, UX often has no impactful KPIs to connect their design and research work to, further diminishing their impact and influence. So this creates a whole it's a whole bigger issue, right? Because we are not able to communicate our value through KPIs, which are like, just things that people measure across business. All we can say is, hey, I designed that thing. I created the visuals for that thing, right? So if that's the way that you're communicating, a business will never fully value all the capabilities that you have, right? Like I said earlier, I don't think that this is how every organization works, because I have worked in a lot of great teams and a lot of great companies. But I've seen this for myself, and I've heard it from other designers, that you have a PM who's making this bunch of subjective opinions, and that kind of just affects everybody. The designers are just designing based off of assumptions. And then if you do that, and then you're figuring out in the data and the analytics of the thing that you guys built that people aren't clicking here, now the engineers may have to rebuild that thing that took them a year or two to build, and it was like a bunch of wasted time and effort, and it just cost the entire company a lot of money, right? So this is a huge issue, and it makes people feel a lot of different ways. I see that 500 people like this post, and it got reposted a lot of times, and there's a lot of commentary across it, right? So these are things that I think people need to know and be aware of, because it can emotionally affect you when you think that you got into design because you were going to be creative and impact the business and whatnot, but you actually don't have the influence that you want because your PM is the one who's like powerful in the organization. This is a whole political thing. This is a business issue. Like, there's a lot this is very nuanced, right? But my whole point with sharing this topic with you guys is to just allow you to be aware of these sorts of issues, and it's one of the unattractive things that come with being a designer. So I think one of the things that I always encourage up and coming designers and even people who are experienced designers is to understand, you know, um, how business relationships work, how you motivate people, who gets like what are they motivated by, what are their working styles, how do they lead, how do people make decisions. Like, we need to know about these things rather than just the design tools, right? You don't just want to jump into a relationship at a job without understanding these things, right? So anyways, guys, I hope that this was helpful for you. If it was, you already know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.